conflicting reports on not only what's going on with Ryan Poles, but also that Ben Johnson is reportedly putting pressure on the Chicago Bears to actually fire Ryan Poles. We'll talk about all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're gonna start off with this, man. So this one comes out, and it's really weird how all this came out. Initially there was an interview that came down with KOA Colorado, and it said this is that Ben Johnson is putting out fillers for people to understand that he does want to be a guy to bring in his own personnel. And then it came out as well from Benjamin Albright that this is Ben Johnson's way of kind of publicly and kind of unofficially putting pressure on the Chicago Bears to fire Ryan Poles. Now, this is a very interesting turn of events when it comes down to it. We've heard really, conflicting things like that. Maybe even Ben Johnson is Ryan Poles, preferred choice, things like that. And now to hear that Ben Johnson may be trying to lean and put a little bit of pressure on the Chicago Bears to actually fire Ryan Poles, but it's an interesting dynamic, right? Like, we've heard things, and I don't know how the contingent of Bears fans are going to feel about this, but like, some of the things that we're starting to hear about Ben Johnson are starting to be a little bit concerning. Now, his offense and what he does on the field is all great, right? But we've heard things like he wants $15 million. Now he wants to, and this isn't even about whether I think the Bears should fire Ryan Poles or not. This is just about the fact that as a first-time head coach, right, not a head coach that's done it at the NFL level before, but as a first-time head coach, you're trying to come in and reportedly maybe put some pressure on Ben Johnson, on the Bears, to fire Ryan Poles, their current GM. I mean, it could be an interesting turn of events, and I guess it would also point towards how much do the Chicago Bears brass really want Ben Johnson as their next head coach, and it's going to be an interesting story to watch develop, right? And like I said before, this comes from Benjamin Albright saying that Ben Johnson's team is making it known publicly on purpose as a way to put pressure on the Bears to fire Ryan Poles. Also, it also came out in this that Ben Johnson does want the Chicago Bears job, but he will not beg for it. And which I don't think the Bears job is at a position that anybody should beg for the Chicago Bears job. But the question is how much how much say does Ben Johnson want and expect as a first-time head coach? And there are going to be some Bears fans that love hearing it, right? There are going to be some Bears fans, especially with their discontent and unhappiness with Ryan Poles' job here. They're going to say, this is what exactly what I want to hear. Yeah, put some, and I get it, and I understand it, especially if you're already in the camp of already hoping that the Chicago Bears want the Chicago Bears to fire Ryan Poles anyway. And then on top of that, if you already have a guy like Ben Johnson at the top of one of your coaching candidates, I mean, this all could end up being a perfect storm for Bears fans that feel both those ways. But it's an interesting dynamic to watch, right? Because it does put in a lot of ways. It puts the onus on the Chicago Bears basically to say before of, hey, how bad is getting this head coach, getting a specific head coach, how bad do you want it, right? Because Ryan Poles has come out and said that the plan is for Poles to lead the coaching search. We heard from Albert Breer yesterday that the plan right now is for Ryan Poles to stay in his position, right? And so, there are going to be some questions. Albert Breer, the direct quote this: the biggest question that prime candidates have is about the role of team president Kevin Warren, and I think the McCaskey family is aware of that. To that end, Ryan Poles is set to run point on the search, and I'm told it's because that's the way ownership wants it. Warren will have a seat at the table and a major say, of course, but Poles will too, as McCaskey seek alignment on the football operations side. So, I mean, it seems like if we're taking that for what it's worth, is that the ownership wants Ryan Poles to do his job, right? They want Ryan Poles to do the job that they hired him initially to report directly to them to do, and they want him to find it. Keep in mind, and like I said, this isn't about whether it's the optimal situation or not. This is just talking about the realities. Ryan Poles never got to conduct a full coaching search. It was still his decision to hire Matt Eberflus, and his decision, and he was the one going to bat for Matt Eberflus last offseason for him to keep his job. So he still gets knocks for that. But this will be the first time that Ryan Poles gets to run an entire coaching search. And it seems like ownership is interested to see how he's going to conduct this search, how he's going to go about it. And then they want Kevin Warren to oversee. Again, that is also basically that quote says that the McCaskies want the guys to hire that they hire to do a job, to do the job that they hired them to do. That's basically what it's saying, right? They hired Ryan Poles to run the football operations. They hired Kevin Warren to be the CEO of the team. What does the CEO do? They oversee everything. So they want these guys to do their job. The question now is that, does Kevin Warren override that in getting Ben Johnson? But like I said before, we've heard that Ben Johnson may be Ryan Poles' favorite for the job. It's just, this whole thing, like with everything that the Chicago Bears do, is surrounded by a cloud of mystery, confusion, and controversy. That's what everything it does, right? And overall, it goes to as well. Why the hell is George McCaskey still getting into football evaluations? Now, I would say this: he is saying that, hey, I'm hiring the guy I hired to do it. I want him to do his job. But at the same time, let these men figure it out, right? McCaskey himself is taking over that he is a fan of the game of football, but not an evaluator of the game of football. So it's just, again, everything with this Bears team, with this organization, every time we think that we're getting a little bit of clarity, it gets hit with more unclarity. It just is what it is, right? Now, we continue hearing the same thing, right? And this also comes out from Albert Breer as well, who's covering a lot with it right now. Albert Breer did say that right now that the Bears want this. One thing that was emphasized to me over the past week was that if the leader of men wasn't specifically a quarterback's guy, then he'd have to have a very clear and sustainable plan for the quarterback. So, again, some things that sound right? You want your franchise, if you're going to bring in a guy, to be like, hey, no, we need to know your plan for this guy that we just drafted #1 overall. We want to know in any evaluation what, and this one comes from Kevin Warren, right, is that we need to know what your plan is for Caleb Williams. How are you going to develop Caleb? What's your plan? What do you want to do? What do you need, right, here to develop Caleb Williams in the way that you see fit? How can we best facilitate that? That's what sensible franchises would ask, right? But then it gets met with a whole bunch of other shit because, again, like at some point in time, the Bears need a clear leadership direction, and that is what we so severely are lacking, right? And owners meddle in football. Like that's something that happens throughout football. The Bears aren't the only franchise that they have an ownership group that meddles in the goings on of their team. We're not the only one. I wish I could say that we were the only one, so then it would be even more evident why the Chicago Bears suck so bad at running shit, right? But we're not the only franchise. It's not unique to the Chicago Bears. But what is unique to us is that we can't get 1 foot under us before we're kicking ourselves in the ass. And that's a confession. That's a confusing part about all this. So let's just bring all this together real quick, just to kind of talk about it all in one place. One of the favorites reportedly by the media, by Bears fans, and reportedly by his own people that he wants this job, Ben Johnson wants the Chicago Bears job. But he's not going to kiss ass for it. He's not going to beg for it. And in wanting that job, reportedly either him or his people want Ryan Poles gone if he's going to take over the job. What end? I don't know. Does Ben Johnson want the powers and control of a Bill Belichick? What? And again, it could actually end up being what's best for the team. I have no idea, but you can't deny just how little strange it all feels that a first-time head coach reportedly wants $15 million to do the job, and he wants to choose the GM as a first-time head coach. Listen, you've had success, my boy, but that sounds like a little bit much, does it not? Now, maybe he is the guy with the vision. Maybe he's the guy that can bring it home. Maybe he feels very confident in what he has. If he has a GM that comes in the door with him, that they can get what's done and finally get the Bears where we all been wanting to get to for 40 fucking years. Maybe he's the guy to do that. Maybe. But I tell you what, it's going to put if this does go that way, and it's a huge if, like I always say, take everything that you hear from the media with a huge grain of salt, right? With a huge grain of salt. But if this all goes down this way, let's just say huge if, doesn't seem like Ryan Poles is going to get fired, but let's just say if the Bears move on from Ryan Poles as a GM to placate a first-time head coach and also pays them what would almost be record-setting money as a first-time head coach, listen, if you don't want the Bears to continue being a laughingstock, it better the goddamn well work out. Because could you imagine if in 3-4 years, we're talking, they go back and say, hey, this is the guy that the Bears coveted so much. They fired their GM. They made him one of the highest paid coaches in the league right off the bat, and they turned over a bunch of power to him. And what have they gotten over the last 4 years? If it keeps being nothing, could you imagine what that would look like for the team? But hey, let's say that it works out. If it does work out and you do all these moves and it gets the Bears finally on the right path, then we'll be heralded for making such a radical decision, right? It's such an interesting dichotomy between where the different paths could lead and how this could affect the Chicago Bears in the present and the future, regardless if they do this. Now, it's not guaranteed that that's going to be the move, right? And I think that that's the thing. It could very well be that we still hire Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles still is the GM. It could very well be that. Right now, I don't know how that's going to play out in the long run. And of course, we don't know exactly how that's going to go, but we shall see. Right. And the soap opera that is the Chicago Bears and this organization is going to continue. It's going to march on, and we are not going to stop because that's what life as a Chicago Bears fan is. Isn't that just crazy? That's what life as a Bears fan is that we get to sit back and watch the soap opera that is our lives, the days of our lives, Chicago Bears edition. That's what this franchise is. And it honestly, sometimes you got to laugh to keep from crying at looking at this team because it's just a bunch of bullshit. Other franchises can fire their head coach, go through an offseason, do their interviews, hire the next head coach, and around the league, people look at it and be like, all right, cool. They got their guy. Let's go out and see what it does. But of course, in typical Chicago Bears fashion, we can't even go through a head coaching search without it being like, oh, were they going to fire their GM? Oh, is the president, is the CEO Kevin Warren, is he overstepping his bounds? Is he trying to do too much? Does he want the glory? Like, it's just so funny that it's nothing that we do is just business. It's never just business as usual. Every single time we do something with this franchise, it has to be a bunch of calamity and a bunch of controversy around it. And that's just the franchise we choose to support and love, I guess. That's all we can say in that. Like, it's just such an interesting thing that we go through as Bears fans that, like I said, you got to laugh to keep from crying because to be 100% honest with you, it's fucking frustrating. It's frustrating. And it irritates the holy hell out of me, to be quite honest. And listen, from my lips to God's ears, like at some point, can we just have a goddamn confident as like a competent, I should say, operation around here. And it's stupid. It really is just stupid. And again, this isn't about Bears fans. I've said it before. Everybody who sits there and says, hey, why is Ryan Poles getting another decision? You are valid in asking that question. For the people that also say, hey, Ryan Poles, I want to see what he does. I want to see if he can correct it. You are valid in having that perspective as well. Because it's so, like I said before, us as fans, we just here along for the ride, hoping the best for our team. And that's just what it comes down to. Unfortunately, it just seems like the people in charge are just along for the ride as well and just hoping for the best with no plan. Yeah, it is what it is. But with that said, another one of the reported top candidates for the Chicago Bears, coaching that's been reported a lot, Mike Vrabel can now officially interview for the job. His contract as a special advisor has now run out. This one comes from Adam Schefter. His consulting agreement with the Cleveland Browns and Mike Vrabel has now come to an end. So now that means that Mike Vrabel can freely start interviewing for jobs. And, if the Bears do want to sit down with Mike Vrabel, which is something that we've heard, that could happen sooner rather than later. The Bears do have one more game left on Sunday, of course. They may very well just wait to the end of the season at this point in time. Like, why bring it in? But they could very well bring him in. They could interview him, and we could find out about it later. So, it'd be interesting to watch what happens there with Mike Vrabel. But, hey, a guy that the Bears reportedly are interested in is now eligible and free to interview as he damn well pleases. And we'll see if he comes in here. Maybe he comes in and wows. Maybe he surprises. Maybe he shocks. Maybe he awes. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea. But it is what it is when it comes down to it. But we also got an update as well on Pete Carroll. And it sounds like this. Pete Carroll is going to be given a chance to wow the Chicago Bears on getting this job, right? It means that he's going to have a detailed plan for quarterback Caleb Williams. He's going to have to talk about how he's going to fix the locker room dysfunction. But it does seem right now that the Bears are going to give him a chance, but Pete Carroll is going to have to sell himself pretty damn well because it seems like the Chicago Bears do want to go after a younger head coach. Even though Pete Carroll is proven, but he's in the 70s, and it seems like right now the Bears are kind of leaning more towards wanting to go a younger route to build more over time, but he is going to get a chance, right? So we'll see what happens with that one overall. Hey, he'll get a shot, and the Bears should be giving and looking at everybody to see what they can bring to this team and how they can fix it. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think on those two. Mike Vrabel, eligible to interview for jobs. Pete Carroll, seems like he's going to be given a shot to sit down with the Chicago Bears. They're going to see what he has to say, and we'll see what happens there. But with that said, we got one voicemail that I do want to get into. This one's from the General, Brandon L. Jet.
What's going on? Hayes, Bobby, C-Dub, Steve-O, Big Kev, Brandon L. Jet here, the General. Quick mailbag for you guys real quick. I had a little bit of time here in Germany in my hospital bed. We'll go over that later. What the hell happened to me? But quick things that I observed with the Bears. I have zero expectations for week 18 as far as Green Bay and Chicago. I really hope that Caleb Williams doesn't play for the sake of self. He has nothing left to prove. And I don't trust his offensive line at all to protect them. And Green Bay still actually does have something to play for in week 18 as far as playoff seeding for them, even though I don't see them getting past the 5th or 6th seed as far as the playoffs. Anyway, I'm talking about this offseason, and the key is going to be Ryan Poles. I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at you directly. You got some work to do. And two things for your job's sake better hit home is you better pick the right head coach for this team, and you better rebuild both lines, offensive as well as defense, and spend some of that money that you have now inherited based on a lot of deals, a lot of expiration deals, a lot of cuts, and possibly losing out on Keenan Allen next year. You'll have the 5th most highest salary cap coming up in 2025, depending on what the NFL salary cap is going to be, to rebuild both lines. You have all major skill positions offensively booked up, to include running backs, wide receivers, quarterback, tight end, safety position, secondary position, and pretty much most of your linebackers. The key is, plus, you're going to have, at a minimum, a high 8 draft pick to work with, the 5th most highest salary cap coming up in 2025. So your job is to stay on this. And I'm tired of seeing Caleb Williams get sacked. I'm tired of seeing him on the ground. And I need you to hit with a competent coach. I don't care if he's offensive flavor, defensive flavor, but just somebody that can help bring out the best of your franchise quarterback that you traded somebody for, that you drafted yourself, that you're putting your stake on for. I don't want to hear any more excuses. And if you don't produce, or if Caleb does not succeed, or if this team loses.
Listen, Brandon L. Jet was cooking, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. And this is why I said in yesterday's episode, whoever the guy running the searches, whoever ends up being the GM, you got a very important job to do. And, while Brandon L. Jet started it off by saying Caleb Williams has nothing left to prove, to me, he still has a lot left to prove, but we do need those things in place to prove it. We need a coach. We need an offensive line. We need to get this. If Brian Poles is going to get to do this thing again this offseason, Brian Poles got to have, I would say this, he got to hit 85 to 90%, meaning that he has to, all his moves have to hit at an 85 to 90% rate for him to keep his job beyond that. Now, there are going to be some people that rightfully so say, well, if you're going to give him a chance to hire the head coach, his contract should be extended over the time that coach is there. And maybe you could say that, right? And I'm not going to knock that. But Ryan Poles has to score 85 to 90%. And some Bears fans are going to say, hey, he got to score 95% for me. And you're right? I'm just trying to be a little bit more lenient in it. You got to have an 85 to 90% hit rate. At a minimum for me. At a minimum, right? And the Bears got to be contending for playoff spot. There's no more of this bullshit. Oh, well, we doubled our win-loss. I don't give a fuck about none of that. At this point right now, with where the Chicago Bears are, if we're not contending for at least a wild card spot at this time next season, we have another season by December. The beginning of December, we're like, oh, the season's over and done with. You got to go. It's no point. I know that we don't fire people in the middle, but you got to go. That's it. This is your last chance, right? And so you got to get that job. And Brenton Eljet saying he's looking directly at Ryan Poles. We all need to be looking directly at Ryan Poles. If you are blessed enough to get another opportunity to do this thing again this offseason, it can't be no more ifs, ands, or whats. The Bears need to be in playoff contention. That's it. I know we have a second-year quarterback at that point in time, but you stack the deck. And it's stack the deck, you need to go out there and get some shit done. Go out there and get it done. That's what it comes down to, in my personal opinion. And I don't listen. I'm tired of talking about losing seasons. 14 wins in 3 years. That's what I've gotten to talk about here. 14 wins in 3 years. There are teams that have that this season. I want to be one of those teams. I'm not expecting that next year, but I want to be one of those teams. Let me know what you guys feeling, all of it down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.